In today's episode, we're joined by Todd Sarner, psychotherapist, parenting coach, and author of The Calm and Connected Parent. He's helping us understand why capable parents still lose it at home and how to rebuild inner calm, confidence, and connection in our family life. If you're feeling stretched thin or burned out, this episode is just for you. Stay tuned. Welcome to Fulfillment Therapy. I'm Kendra Nielsen, wife, mom, and licensed therapist. Do you ever feel like you're doing everything right, but you're still exhausted and empty? Did you think life, marriage, and parenting would be simpler and more rewarding? Sometimes you just want to crawl back into bed and lose yourself in screen time and chocolate, rather than face that personal or family stress. You are not alone. This podcast helps you break free of the rat race and build a richer, more meaningful life, flourishing incrementally and realistically, improving your mental health and wellness, and living with deeper purpose beyond the mundane, no matter where you are in life's journey. Welcome back to Fulfillment Therapy. Today we have a special guest here with us, Todd Sarner. He's a licensed psychotherapist and parenting coach who helps overwhelmed parents become the calm, confident leaders their kids can rest in without punishment or power struggles. His work blends attachment science, nervous system regulation, and family systems coaching to create more cooperation at home and more connection and relationship. Todd is the author of The Calm and Connected Parent, an attachment-first blueprint for raising resilient kids in the age of screens and AI. So excited to have you on the show. Thank you for coming on, Todd.
I'm really excited to be here, Kendra. Thanks for having me on.
I love all the things that you are passionate about working on. What got you into this space? Why do you love it? And how did you get here today?
Yeah, you see a lot of overlap in what we care about and the work we do. So I'm really excited to talk to you about all the different stuff that we both love helping parents with. I get asked that question. I think it really was being a teenager and my parents splitting and going to a psychotherapist myself. Me, my brother, and my sister all had to go to therapy when my parents divorced. And I just loved it. I thought it was great having this really kind, wise man, Marty, just talk to me about my life and help me figure out what was going on for me. And it inspired me at that age. Oh, that's what I want to do. Now, as things evolved, I went through grad school thinking that's what I was going to do. I'm going to work with kids. And I worked in foster care and group homes and things with more high-risk kids. And I really found that work to be valuable and meaningful. But a couple things changed when I became a father myself, and about 22 years ago. Gosh, it's been a long time. And when I started working with my primary mentor, Dr. Gordon Neufeld, and reading his book when my son was about a year old, Hold On to Your Kids, I just got the feeling, wait, I'm not supposed to work with the kids. I'm supposed to work with the parents. I want to be the person in the background helping the parents be the answer for the kids, not me. And that doesn't mean I don't value therapy with kids. Obviously, it helped me out tremendously as a teenager. It was very meaningful for me. But I think for most of the parents I work with, they are the parents that their kids need. They are the ones that have that power of the bond and the attachment. And I just want to be the person who helps them enhance that, to understand the behavior and development issues of their kids and not really be the one trying to be the answer myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So you felt like maybe you wanted to work with kids, and then as it developed, you realized, okay, no, I'm really supposed to work with the parents. I know that is very fulfilling work myself. I love doing that. And I love how it's honed the more that you develop your interests. So you mentioned earlier that you are really interested in EFT. And for listeners that don't know what that is, do you mind sharing a little bit about that and why you love it?
Sure. We both have familiarity with EFT and Sue Johnson's work, and I can't claim a close relationship with her, but I miss her. I did have interactions with her, and she passed away too soon a few years ago. I became really focused on doing parenting work even before I got my license. I wasn't sure I wanted to get my license. I want to help kids by helping their parents, and I'm going to use Neufeld's kind of approach, and this attachment lens makes so much sense to me. And I had done some couples work in grad school and a little while after, but I thought, no, the parent coaching is what I want to do. And then I kept hearing about Sue Johnson and her work with emotionally focused therapy for couples. I remember being on an airplane going to a training with Dr. Neufeld in Montreal. And the woman next to me was a therapist reading one of Sue Johnson's books. And we started talking. She said, "You want to help kids?" "Yeah, I do. That's what I'm all about." "Then you have to help the parents with their relationship because that impacts the kids so much." And it just made so much sense to me that it was the same lens, that there are all sorts of factors that lead to raising a kid or to having a strong marriage, but that the bond between the two of you and your child, you and your partner, is the crucial main thing. And that because of fears and family history and life and stress, that bond sometimes fades and isn't where it needs to be. And so the main thing we need to do is reestablish the bond. It just made so much sense to me for couples work. And what I found in Sue's work, and then in the work I did with Stan Tatkin after that with his PACT method, was that if we could, what Sue focused on was, let's get to the bond. Let's get to the negative cycles that people establish between them. That's usually not because they have bad intentions. One of the most hopeful things I found, that you've probably found in your work, is that people really want to do the right thing for their partner. They usually want to be what their partner needs. It's just because they didn't get it themselves usually that they don't know how to give it. I know you know this, but the way I explain it. And that if you can understand that usually it's, hey, I'm not moving to meet my partner's needs the way they need, but not because I don't want to, but because I don't know how to. And then they're upset with me because of it. And then they're responding in a way that's not necessarily artful or kind. And then I'm responding to that. And then it becomes this whole other thing. So I think answering your question, EFT is, let's identify those negative cycles that are usually from a place of not knowing. Let's depersonalize it. Let's make people understand that it's not their partner's fault, that it's something you co-created. And then let's build up something that is actually based on what you need and on more knowing and on strengthening the bond first. And then the symptoms tend to go away. So I love the methodology so much. I could go on for hours about it, but that's my kind of nutshell version of what it is to me.
I'm a big lover of EFT, and I use this a lot with my clients too. So let's go to stories. Do you have any examples of things that you see come up regularly with clients? Like, it's easy to just talk about these things, but to really conceptualize it in a way that makes sense. Like a typical problem that parents face and how that relates to both their relationship with each other in their partnership and also with their kids. What do you see?
Yeah, I'll speak a little bit more in composite at first, and then maybe I'll come up with some examples. I think you were in contact with my office manager, Kelly, and Kelly has been with me a long time, and she used to do these surveys that I'd ask her to do once a year of people on social media and clientele and things. I really wanted to not drift away from what was most important to people or my own ideas. I wanted to constantly ask, at least once a year, what is the main challenge you're facing? And after a while, we stopped doing it because we were hearing the same thing every time. Like basically 500 people would respond. And then obviously I'm hearing this every day in my virtual office. I'm really trying to be a great parent. I'm reading books. I'm listening to podcasts. I'm trying really hard not to do things that my parents did that weren't ideal. But man, sometimes my kids just don't listen to me. And I'm trying to get them to cooperate and I'm trying to do my best and they don't listen. And sometimes they outright seem like they're defying. And so I try to be patient and then I get frustrated and eventually I raise my voice or I take things away and then I feel bad. And then my partner and I fight about it because one of us, often the mom, not always, is like, they need more of our attention. They need more connection from us. And the other parent is usually saying, they need more rules. They need more boundaries. They need more discipline. And then they polarize around that, where one of them really stakes out the connection position and the other one really stakes out the discipline position. And then they fight with each other. And so then the parent's feeling guilty and it's affecting the marriage. Does that sound familiar, Kendra?
Absolutely. Not only with my clients, but in my own relationship.
I know. We all experience it. So one of the first things I say to those folks is, look, you can't be perfect. We're all experiencing this kind of thing. Therapists who are trained and have put tons of money and time into learning these things, experience these things. You're not broken. You're not screwing up your kid. But you are noticing things. Your conscious is noticing this doesn't feel good. I don't like this way. And I think it might have been Rebecca Jorgensen, the EFT trainer, who might have given me that language once. She said, but that a little bit of guilt or a little tiny bit of shame that goes, ooh, that's not how you want to be. That's fine. That's just your conscience saying, that's not how I want it to be. I should change it. A little bit is just your conscience. Oh, after that, it becomes not helpful to beat up on yourself and be critical of yourself. But then I say, look, you're both right. Attachment is incredibly important. If a kid doesn't feel connected to you, they won't listen to you. It's not willful disobedience. They just won't listen to you if they don't feel connected. That's an attachment instinct. If you have an instinct that your kids need more connection or that you should be connecting first, yes, do that. But they also need healthy guidance. They need consequences that are non-punishing. They need to learn that this leads to that and this doesn't lead to that. That's not punishment. If you don't eat dinner, you don't get dessert. That's not a punishment. That's just not what we do. And when kids get frustrated and it builds up, which happens to all of us, they need to get it out. They need you to be firm but empathetic and loving and say no and really write it out with them in a firm, loving way, the way a good friend would with you or a good therapist would with you when you're really struggling with something. That's not punishment. That is helping a child feel secure, right? So what I try to do is just add a lot of education and try to offer a different narrative on the struggle. Because if you see your kid as willfully being disobedient, you're naturally going to be antagonistic. If you think your partner is your enemy because you're advocating this and they're advocating that, you're going to feel antagonistic. If you actually have a point of view of, look, my kid's not listening to me because they don't feel connected, that's good. They're not supposed to listen to people they're not connected to. I need to put a little bit more effort into that. Hey, my partner's right. They do need a little bit more discipline, but discipline isn't punishment. Let's share each other's perspectives. Let's just do it the right way.
It sounds like you're saying it's changing that narrative, that story that we're telling ourselves from being the enemy and this willful disobedience to instead being like this needs exploration. What does this person need? More of this empathy, getting curious about it, and then exploring that, going back into those patterns. Okay, what's happening here? Maybe let's hit that from the couples, from the parents. So say a couple comes to you, maybe even just one of them, and they're starting to identify this dance or this pattern that comes up, and they're seeing the other person as very much the enemy and purposely doing these things that are really challenging. We could even talk about your example, like they're having a parenting struggle. He doesn't understand anything. He thinks that all the answers will just be solved if we have more boundaries, more rules, but he's not compassionate at all. And just never coming eye to eye on it. So again, like that you said. So at this point, you help them maybe be a little more curious or change that narrative slightly. How does it get to that space where they start to notice more results in their parenting and in their relationship? What do you say specifically to them?
I have a lot of thoughts on this and been through this exact scenario so many times. From an EFT perspective, Sue was really clear about what the first clinical goal was. The first clinical goal is depersonalize the conflict and help them understand the negative cycle. That's my first thing. If you think that your partner could attack you at any moment for something you say, you're not going to be really in a vulnerable space and an open space to talk through things. So we have to first depersonalize it. Hey, look, you're not doing this perfectly. I'm not doing this perfectly. We both made this thing together. I'm sorry. Can we start over? Because I love you. You love me. We both have good intentions. You have to get to that place first. So it really depends how escalated the couple is. If they're very escalated, I know I'm not going to get a lot of work done until we de-escalate. I know you understand that clinically, but do you think that makes sense the way I'm explaining it?
And you can even use your own hypothetical example if you want.
Yeah. I really appreciated Stan Tatkin's, when I trained with Stan, he had a term that he used all the time, conflict versus deficit. It was what I was referring to before. If you see your partner as in conflict with you, or they're doing something on purpose, or your kid, you're going to naturally go to a conflict or antagonism kind of stance, which won't get you anywhere. If you understand it's usually a deficit, something they don't know how to do, something they weren't taught how to do. I often say to couples, look, what if your mom was a germaphobe when you were little? And because of that, she would stay away from you when you were sick. She didn't mean harm. She loved you, but she didn't take care of you when you were sick because she was so afraid of germs. So she was really hands off. Now your partner is sick and you totally are hands off. You avoid them because that's what your mom did. Does that make sense so far? And then your partner who had a parent who actually was there for them and provided for them, or didn't, and so they really feel, I really need that, experiences that as, why aren't you taking care of me? And it's because your partner doesn't have it in them to do it. So I have examples like that all the time. I had a couple that I worked with. The thing that came up a couple weeks ago, I was trying to figure out if this made enough sense in this context. They had a situation that happened all the time where he would be like struggling to pay attention when he was like doing certain work. The fight that came up was he was trying to do an email, and he was very intently trying to do this email about a very important thing. And he had told his wife that he had to do this. She was feeling upset about something, and she came to the door of his office and tried to engage him about something important. Although she wasn't being really specific about what it was, she's being a little vague. And so his experience was, I'm in the middle of something. Why are you talking to me about this vague stuff? Please let me finish my email. Her experience was, why aren't you even looking at me? I'm trying to tell you something important and you won't turn away from your computer. And this turned into a week-long fight that they came to me with, but also had roots in different fights they had for actually 5 or 6 years. And what I tried to do is help them reframe what was going on. Hey, yes, you're trying to concentrate. You're trying to do this. Your wife's being vague, but she really needs your attention when she has something important. So you should make eye contact with her and actually just pause. And if you need to take care of yourself and say, hey, honey, what's going on? It really matters to me. Can I finish this email, or is it a right now thing? Like, actually go through that. But from her perspective, I try to help her understand, hey, your husband really struggles to pay attention. You know this. He told you he was having a hard time with this email. Please just keep that in mind. He's not trying to not meet your needs. He's just really struggling to pay attention. And so that was the de-escalation in that case, if that makes sense as an example. when they got into that place and they could really see what was going on for each other, they're now in a more constructive place. They can actually now share stories. Yeah, when I was little, my mom didn't really pay attention to me when I was talking and I felt like my needs didn't matter. Hey, I struggled with paying attention in school and I felt like nobody ever helped me with it. They just judged me and labeled me this. And they start having more compassion because they're looking at it from a different perspective. And what I find myself saying to couples all the time, and I don't know if this is an original phrasing or if I heard it somewhere along the way, is empathy doesn't mean you have to agree. I don't have to agree with your point of view to empathize with you. Empathizing just means I am striving to understand what your experience is right now. And I find so many of the escalations between my couples are because in the moment they're not having empathy for each other, or not at least starting with that and then going from there.
Absolutely. I love your examples that you're using and how we can apply this to our own circumstances, whatever they might be. But it does, like you talked about, that as you're able to change that narrative and come at it with more compassion or curiosity, then your compassion and your empathy can grow. As there's space for that, then there's ways to work through it. So I'm just thinking of our listeners and my clients often feeling very overwhelmed, exhausted, snapping at their kids. They really want to build this calm. They want to get to that space. But without a therapist or somebody else to guide them, this is a powerful start to our conversation with Todd Sarner. If today's episode resonated, you can take your personal and family fulfillment to the next level with our online courses at fulfillmenttherapy.org. Check out Heal Your Home for deepening parenting connection or Ignite Your Life for personal growth. And if today's episode encouraged you, we'd love your review on Apple Podcasts. It helps other parents find hope and inspiration too. We'll see you back here shortly for part 2. Hey friends, if you enjoyed this episode, a quick 30-second share can help someone else find support and help this podcast grow. Leaving a review on Apple Podcasts boosts visibility and keeps the show alive. Your simple acts make a big difference. I'll see you back here each week for more life-changing episodes.